Uh, oh, good evening, everyone. Hello. I see Michael popped in right as we went live. Michael, I'll let you in just a second. Guys and girls, I hope we're going to be talking on Paranormal Talk tonight. We're going to be getting some deep shit, kind of, sort of. First, before we get into anything deep, we were actually talking about colors of beards and stuff just before we came live. And I was talking about how my beard changes when I have to do certain appearances. Usually, if I'm doing anything television, a lot of documentaries, they make me dye it because they say my face is from here down. But what's funny about this is, and she had asked me, Amelia said something about this, or Michelle, that I said, there's a red background behind us right now, which you can't see. And for a while, I was looking for like a dark, deep, like fiery red or dark blue to dye it. Not a purple, but like a dark blue. Unfortunately, there's just none of that shit for men. They make a lot of stuff for women. So I said, well, can't I use that? Because I asked my friend of mine who does hair. I said, can I just use that on my beard? She said, no, it'll eat your skin up. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, your face skin's way more delicate, man. You can't put it on your face. I'm like, I said, well, ain't some of that, because I really do. I'd like to do a couple. I'd really like to get that Halloween shit, which for some reason I can't find anymore, and just change it from episode to episode. It might be blue, it might be green, it might be red. Hey,
Because it was all poisonous.
yeah, it is
You
all
had to
poison. That's a
get
bad.
rid
That's the
of it.
bad part of this. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you know how we found out. Like Johnson and Johnson, we found out that talcum powder was killing everybody after I don't know what 100 years everybody used
Oh
it.
my God, maybe longer.
So all of a sudden one day we're going to hear that L'Oreal, gives you brain cancer.
Let's hope not.
Well, there's
That's
a
what I
reason
said.
That would
why
be terrible.
I know,
there's a reason why they tell you to abstain from coloring your hair when you're pregnant. There's a
True.
reason.
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
'cause your
your
baby will come out
follicles are yeah,
Right.
you got a lot of explaining to do.
It's a curse. It's a curse.
Yeah.
It's been a weird thing. Sorry guys, we started late tonight. It's just been I'm supposed to be off doing personal stuff today. Yeah, whatever. It started. I had to go take care of a problem for a friend of mine, actually for a customer of mine. One of his people just blew out of hot water. And I'm like, what were you doing? Because I couldn't find any hot water. He was still good. I was like, what the hell were you doing? And I don't know. I said, well, y'all cramming shit in the closet. Yeah, you were, because they busted the pipe in half. I don't know how you break a copper tube in half, start off with, just flooded everything. Get that taken care of. Then I forgot my good friend John Goodwin. I had an interview with him today. Well, I didn't even remember until 3:30. He calls me at 3:40. What the hell? It's like, I'm sorry, John. Completely forgot about him. Custom have been bugging me all day. Like I said, yeah, I told you I'd be in Tuesday. This is Monday. I love all of y'all, but damn. Thank God for radio where I get to stress. Oh, and then, I bought my son a Kia, right? Okay. Nice, safe Kia. Good, solid built car, right? Look, Kia, y'all are on my shit list.
My sister had one. I'm going to leave it right there.
They're cute, but
First 9 months, 3 transmissions. So you lose a transmission 6 months in. So they get him a new one. All right, no big deal. They took care of it, no problem. So about another 5 or 6 months passed. That was about a year, a little bit for a year. It goes out. I'm like, mother, blah, blah, blah. So we bring it back. Before he gets home, it goes out again. Brand new transmission. So I called Key. I'm having shit fit with him. Oh, your state says you got to have a blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. So then they had to change out the computer pack in the car. I'm like, get the hell out of here. And then they had to change out a sensor. So then about 3 months ago, we get another notice that there's a recall on the transmission that has to be ever done to it. So I've been trying to get hold of him to get him in there. I called him about 4 months ago, and then again, and then I called Kia in June. And so my son calls me today. He says, Dad, or yesterday evening, he says, Dad, car's running like crap. I'm like, go bring it to Kia. It's under warranty. He said, it's only after 50,000 miles, it's only the drivetrain. I said, yeah, and I said, bring it in. I said, if it's not, we'll take it somewhere else. Oh, so Kia tells him, this is a car under warranty for Kia. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a car under warranty for Kia. They tell him the first week of October, maybe. I was like,
what's he supposed to do?
I said, so you're going to give him a rental? He said, you're going to give you a rental, right? Oh, no, because they got to prove what it is before they can give me a rental. I said, so I had it. You know how I am, ladies and gentlemen. I get on the phone. So I was pissed, man. I get on the phone. Yeah, this had nothing to do with paranormal people, y'all listening. It should be, because I may have killed somebody by accident, but I get on the phone. I'm trying to be polite. I don't want to be mean. I'm still in a pretty good mood. I hadn't realized I'd forgot about John yet. And I said, poor lady, it's a good thing I hadn't remembered. So she gets on the phone. She instantly starts taking. I said, sweetie, don't bother. I said, 3 transmissions in a year. There's no way you can take up for that. I said, plus it took me 45 minutes to get you. I said, if I ever made a custom made 45 minutes, they would just fire me and just go on to the next person. I'd say like, no. I said, but anyway, I said, so I get you on instantly. You're taking them for Kia. I said, I filed a claim with Kia, right? She went back and looked. She said, oh, but we couldn't get hold of you. I guess we were sending you. I said, yes. And my son changed his number a while back. So shame when y'all didn't call me because y'all had both numbers. I said, so that's not really an excuse. So I said, here, give me all the information. Because I filed a claim on it with three transmissions, a computer pack, and a road sensor. Those are the sensors that if you let go, you steer will keep you from going left or right. That's one of the one that went out. And I said, yeah. And I said, here we are again. Now the car don't even want to run. I said, the car has barely 60,000 miles on it. It's not even 2 years old yet. And you're telling me it needs a tune-up? I said, you better not be telling me that. I said, because I'm going to be really pissed. And she said, oh, no. I said, but still. So she finds somebody for August 27th that'll take the car and see it. So she goes, well, look, go get a rental car. And as long as it's something we're going to fix, we'll redeem it for the rental car. And she said, if you want to take it somewhere else and get it repaired, you can. And if it is something we cover, we can redeem it. I said, look, I'm not one to play these games with you. I said, I want my car fixed. I said, I bought it from Kia. I want Kia to fix it. I said, I want no rogue ass moron fixing my car. I don't know nothing about Kias. I said, but I'm going to tell you something, sweetie. I said, I own a radio station. I said, and I had high hopes for Kia. So I had friends that own Kias. People telling me about Kia this, Kia that, Kia this. I said, you have made an enemy here for no reason other than you couldn't get my car in. I said, let me ask you something. If you couldn't drive your car, I said, so she's telling me that people are getting upgrades and stuff because of these recalls, right? And that's why it's jammed up. I said, so what you're telling me is a recall that's going to take 3 or 4 hours. You just can't put it back 2 hours and just bring in this car to see what's wrong with it. If it's nothing you can handle, they can go somewhere else, or you can go ahead and schedule it for fixing it and do a rental car. Oh, no. I said, yeah, because you don't want to, because you don't want to have to put out a rental car for 2.5 months. I said, I know a game's being played here. And I said, so we went on back and forth for a while. And she finally says, well, I found somebody else. Maybe I can get it in for the 20th, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, still, what about the rental car? She said, well, Mr. Montalvo, just go get it. She said, from what it sounds like, it's something to do with the drivetrain. So we'll cover the rental car. She said, this way, if it isn't, it's only 4 days, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, what about all the other stuff that we're talking about? So we're going to resolve this. Technically, by the state of Louisiana, they're either supposed to give me all my money back or give me a new car because it's more than 5 things. And it's inside the warranty. See, Kia got screwed because they have that 99,000-mile drivetrain warranty. So in Louisiana, as long as it's X amount of things, as long as there's still a warranty in the car, they have to fix it. And since they haven't fixed it to our liking, I mean, come on. Do you want to drive a car that's actually had 3 transmissions go out in the middle of interstate traffic? I mean, plus now they're giving you a recall on the other new transmission. It makes me not want to drive the car.
I wouldn't want it free.
But that's why I drive a Toyota and a Ford because they don't do that kind of shit. Did I say that on the air? Well, Toyota's a sponsor, so they get not on this show, but they're a sponsor, so they can get a little. Ford, did you hear that? You better start sponsoring. So I'm gonna start telling them what FORD really means. I'm just saying, you better start sponsoring us anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you, Michael, Michelle, or the double M's? We got the double M's and AJ here. It's Angela, Amelia, and Joe.
Wow, what are you thinking about? You were thinking Angel, of course.
I was thinking Alien, but anyway, we'll let that slide. We're going to save that for Wednesday night.
Oh, God.
Why she's called Bubbles the Alien. Michael, how you are tonight? You good? You awful quiet for Michael. Scaring me a little bit, man.
Just sitting here looking at, what is it? Revelations, that's right.
Yeah, that's when Joe shoots a bunch of holes in the side of a Kia. That's Revelation.
Earthquake, sickness, I think we got it all.
Pestilence, plague, yes, all the fun stuff. But I hear I hear it because Pink Shorts is the head of a coven up there that's going to be taken over by another coven in Europe. That all that stuff's going to happen to Canada.
Well, Pink Shorts is up for election right now. Don't know if you guys are aware of that.
No, we are aware of it. We also know that
20th.
no one else in Canada is aware of it except for the people that vote for him. It's funny about this. Mike and I are going to talk about this on Wednesday. It's really funny. I was talking to a bunch of my friends in BC the other day, and we talked about Pink Shorts. And ladies and gentlemen, y'all can find out who Pink Shorts is on Wednesday, but we're talking about it, right? And she goes, "Who, Joe? No, there's no election." I said, I got several hosts in Canada, and they all know it. And I said, "Y'all don't." I said, "That just scares me." So One of them goes to the big bar to go hang out in that advertises, and one of them he calls me next day. He said, "You're fucking right. Nobody knows." He said, "I don't think anybody in BC even knows." He said Vancouver's just off in their own little thing somewhere. Don't even know what the hell's going on.
No, they're well aware.
I said, you got to call your friends in Quebec and find out what the hell's going on, man.
Ontario they are somewhere. Extremely well aware there. You're not going to miss it. He lives there.
So I was thinking we would put some pink shorts on Michael and pink shirt, shave him, fluff his hair up a little bit, and send him.
How do you know I'm not wearing pink shorts?
Oh man, look, I don't need to know that now. Some things I don't need to know. But we'll send him up there, and he can be a replacement for Mr. Pink Shorts. We're talking about Justin Casper, Justin Trudeau, whatever his real name is. But,
probably do a better job. I'll leave it there.
These poor people. And that's something I was going to be talking with John about today. I had an interview with Mr. John Goodwin today from Galaxy Press, a good friend of ours, good friend of the network, good friend of mine. I really like John. And we were talking, and we were going to be talking about kind of politics and media and how things, kind of combine together and get into stuff, how it falls into sci-fi and things like that, and, weird stuff like that. But I want to get into the topic we were talking about tonight because just the other day, so I seen this topic on a friend of ours show on Spaced Out Radio, Dave Scott's show. And I said, oh, that's a good topic. I said, we all know more than they do, so it should be more fun. And then not like the next day, a friend of mine comes up and starts telling me about these two people that go missing in Honey Island Swamp. Now, it's not unbelievable that somebody goes missing in Honey Island Swamp. It's a big, big swamp. It's a lot of dangerous shit out there. Poisonous spiders, poisonous snake, grizzly bears, whatever kind of cats, alligators. God knows what's out there. And then you got to worry about the natives. You ever see the movie Deliverance? You got to worry about the natives.
I'm hearing banjos.
I'm just saying. People ask me all the time. No, people ask me all the time. Why do you carry a gun out in the swamp? You want to kill some animals? I said, no, it's not the animals I'm worried about. I said, most of the animals I can take care of with a stick, man. It's the other animals out there that worry me a little bit. 4:00 in the morning, you run up into no. Anyway, we don't want to go there. So it's not. And the last time we heard a bunch of people going missing in Honey Island was back in the day of the Honey Island Swamp Monster, which we either killed one night or we killed somebody's big ass bear. Either way, we don't know for sure. But I'm sticking with the bear story, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But anyway,
what if it was like some guy?
It wasn't a guy, unfortunately for us. It was 20. Dude. I mean, think about this. Here's an image for y'all, ladies and gentlemen. It's pitch black. It's Honey Island Swamp. It's about 2:00 in the morning. There's 20 guys out there, everybody carrying at least 2 long guns, a shotgun, a rifle, and a pistol, no less than that. Some of these rednecks were carrying far more than that. And the two of them are pulling the boats. There's 10 on each side of the bank, and everybody's pulling a boat. And there's one guy on each side pulling the boat down the stream as we're walking through the woods. Now, you got to remember, it's 2:00 in the morning, and at dinner, these guys may have partaken some we'll just say they had a couple of beers and leave it at that. So you hear this smack, crack, bam across the thing. And all the guys already got their Q beams on and their spotlights on, looking around, not seeing nothing. And then you hear it behind it, boom, boom, boom. Then you hear something hit the water. So they all jump in a boat and come across to us. I'm thinking, why'd y'all do that? It's not on your side anymore. So they get over here and we're all big circle, right? Look like something in the movies. Everybody's got the Q beams on. Everybody's looking around. Don't see anything. Then you hear a big branch, like something 4 or 5 centimeters, just crack in half. You're like, 4 or 5 inches. You're like, what the? And then you hear another one, and it's really close. You can tell it's really close, but somehow it's outside the camera. Now, outside the Q beams. Now, most of the Q beams are anywhere from 25 feet to maybe 75 feet. And if you come for maybe some of the 5 or 6 millions might have been as good as 100, 150 feet, still not seeing anything. Then right behind, it sounded like it was in the circle, just smack. Man, everybody just turns around. You start hearing guns just going back, bolts coming back. Man, hammers coming back on the pistols. Everybody's like, "All right, what the hell was that?" So then we made a walking line, and we got out 20 across, and we're just walking along, not seeing anything. And then you heard something crack in front of us and make a just awful roar sound. And I couldn't tell you if it was bear. I've never actually heard a bear roar, so I'm going to have to go listen. But you heard just noise, and all of a sudden, before anybody could say anything, it sounded like World War II. Every gun, everybody, pow, 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 rifle shot. We had 30-06s, 30-30s, 208s, 380s, you name it. We had 9 millimeters, 45s, 44 magnums. I mean, it just was ridiculous. So, I mean, it just, everybody was unloading. And it took good 5 minutes to get everybody to stop shooting. And so you don't hear anything, nothing. So we walk and we figured, all right, whatever it is, we killed it for sure. We don't kill honey on swamp monster. We're going to be rich and famous. So, we look and we don't see anything, no prints, no nothing. And we knew you knew for sure where you heard it was directly in front of us, but there's not even a mark on the ground, no blood. And we also, we'll go back the next morning and see. So, we roll back down the boats early that morning. We come back and when it's daylight, still don't see no tracks, no nothing. So we're coming back and we all hop back in the boat. We get out to the boat launch and there's a game warden out there. He had a black bear, about 7.5, 8 foot maybe, just riddled with bullets. Now, it could have been us. But I don't know why we wouldn't have seen any blood or wouldn't have seen any prints. A bear that big shot up that bear, he'd been dragging himself. There'd have been big drag marks of blood all along the way. So it was a very weird and strange night. Nobody went missing that particular night. Oh, something else happened earlier that night that just creeped everybody out. We found an old plantation back there, right? I mean, this thing's still got windows intact and shit in it. And
Wow.
So they start making Molotov cocktails, gonna burn this thing in the ground. I said, man, y'all better watch out. I said, this thing's been here a long time. No telling what's living in this damn thing. I wasn't even thinking about ghosties and paranormal either. So they start throwing, man, they break on, big flame comes up. 5 minutes later, not a mark on this place. Not a mark. They tried this for an hour. Couldn't get anything to catch. Now, it might have been something paranormal. It might have simply been the fact that this old wood's been carrying moisture from the swamp for God knows 100, 150, 200 years. I have no idea, but it was creeping me out. And every now and then, it sounded like you'd hear something in the house. I swear, at least 3 times I thought I heard somebody talking to us. And it's like,
you hillbillies are different than we are up in New York, man.
Same,
we just go to the theater. You know what I mean? Like maybe get the newspaper and then kind of go home.
We like to have a little, gotta explore, have a little fun. I don't know. We were 16,
I guess you could go on the
17.
subways with some flashlights and maybe a BB gun.
Yeah, you don't want to see anything clearly in a New York subway. Nobody wants to see anything there.
Yeah,
that's why the lights are so horrible down there.
Oh my God, right?
8.5 foot alligator in one of the subways the other day they were talking about. I'm thinking, people, stop letting the alligators loose. If it starts to get warm up north and they start keep letting alligators loose, you're going to have them like we got them down here. They'll be everywhere. And Yankees are stupid. They don't know not to put your hand out there. Every time we read about somebody down here losing a hand to an alligator, is a freaking Yankee every damn time.
So we're getting into like redneck Yankee,
well,
redneck versus Yankee hour.
No, because we can't do that. Because
we won't have that much to talk about being up this.
The only thing I've ever found dumber than a coon ass is a mountain boy. That's about it. Coon ass is just dumb.
It's not like a coon ass event. They signed it. Coon ass is up at the door.
So before y'all start writing to me, I know you got a lot of Bayou boys listening to me. I don't mean like you know what I'm talking about.
They don't have radios or internet. You could.
Hell yes, they do, man. Unfortunately, they do these days.
Maybe a CB radio.
You will go into this
if you're
house.
Lucky.
You have to take a boat all the way to this guy's house, right? Nothing but swamp and gators and every other damn thing. You get to the house, it looks like it's falling. Then you get inside, it looks like a mansion. They got 70-inch television up there. They got satellite going.
Oh, come on. An email to them getting on top of the trailer and yelling to the next guy, hey, you.
People don't realize it. Them shrimpers make good money, man. They don't realize how much money them shrimpers take home. Even a crew guy doing a season, he's going to take home $30,000, $40,000.
Yeah, but those dudes are notorious.
Shrimp cryptid? Just curious.
They are cryptid.
Wind you back.
They are cryptid because they got alligators trying to eat them. And I think what is the famous one? He's half alligator, half crocodile. I mean, half alligator, half crawfish.
I believe that.
The crawgator. The crawgator. That's what they call him, the crawgator.
People go missing when he's around?
Actually, people have gone missing where he was around. That's what we're, Jenny, it's going to be.
Sounds quite delicious there.
It might be quite delicious, but whatever it is.
Alligator,
the first time I heard this, I laughed my ass. But about half a dozen people went missing twice out in Laplace in this spillway. And it would kind of creep people out because nobody knew what it was. And then this guy kept saying that's what it was. And then all of a sudden, Gulf, which is Shell now, put crawgators on all their cups. And it became a joke. And after a while, you just stopped hearing about it. And it was, I have no idea. But, I tell people all the time, when stuff goes missing in swamp, it could be a cryptid because there's a lot of different kind of cryptids that are supposed to be around down here. But it could have been an alligator, it could have been a spider, it could have been anything. It could have been a good old boy. It's a dangerous place, and I tell people all the time: if you come down, it's great. Go explore, but don't go with somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. Make sure that they're local, that they're familiar with the swamps. Because man, it's easy to get lost in a swamp. It doesn't take much to get lost, and just trying to walk your way out, you might meet the swamp monster back there. Just because he looks nice on TV doesn't mean he's nice in real life. But it's
Most
a
likely
creepy,
moonshine.
scary place. Well, it is. It's and that's nothing you might run into. But, I mean, it's just a creepy, scary place.
Making hand sanitizer, man.
I know it might be
That's
these
right.
days, but like just recently, the not the Bigfoot. What do they call him? They call him the skunk ape because and these Kuyons think skunk ape and Bigfoot are two different things. So
Hi,
and
Renata.
so there's been a couple times like in the Sabine River Basin. Now Sam was here; he'd tell you more about it. My business partner. He used to hunt all up and down there. The Sabine River Basin is on the Texas-Louisiana state line. It's one of the places in the country where a good majority of Bigfoot sightings come from. It's a great place for Bigfoot. I mean, it's just thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of unexplored acres. Just big rivers running through them all over. There's a lot of water, a lot of food, a lot of everything in there too. So every now and then you'll hear something. What cracks me up is I know about 3 dozen Bigfoot hunters that go down there. They never see any Bigfoot. These hunters come out with trail cam pictures of them all the time. I'm like, well, why are they seeing them? Yeah, I mean, these guys have got guns and they're seeing them. You ain't even got nothing but a camera and you're not seeing them. It just doesn't make any sense. But I've seen about 200 pictures down there. There's something down there. They call him a skunk ape because I've been down there twice when they said he was going through, and it smells like a damn skunk. I mean, it's just horrible smelling.
That's why they call them that?
Yeah, they call them skunk apes because they stink like a skunk. And you'll see him, but I've seen a couple of pictures, and it definitely looks like an ape. It actually looks like an oversized gorilla with long hair. So is it intelligent? I have no idea. I've seen pictures of it, and I know there's been enough pictures taken now that LSU actually launched a study into it, trying to figure out what the hell it was. But it's still listed as a cryptid because it is. Nobody really knows what it could be. Just like the Honey Island Swamp Monster is a cryptid, and everybody thought that was a what's Nessie, a Platysaurus, or that's what they think she is. Yeah. And how many people going missing there? Is that just stupidity walking out in the locks and drowning, or is there actually a Loch Ness?
That's a deep lake, though.
Yeah, I know it is. And I watched that guy,
and it's black.
Yeah. Well, they say there might be an access to the ocean from there. I don't know. I know Hitler dumped a lot of crap in it. I know when they're scanning the bottoms, they find all kind of weird stuff, and it is deep. And there's been on 2 of those shows I watched when something looked like it came up and over whatever was there. Something big, but it might have been a camera passing under while they were moving. Might have been Michelle down there in some scuba gear looking for Nessie.
Yeah, Michelle in the water.
And if Mike had long hair, and if Mike grew his beard real long and had long hair, we put him out down there in Serene River. They'd think he was a skunk ape. Don't keep him from bathing for a couple of weeks, man. Look, they'd be shooting at your ass.
Coon ass is shooting at me. Forget that. This skunk ass is shooting back.
Oh my god!
I'd be saying, I'm not a skunk
ass.
I'm from New
Coon
York.
ass versus skunk ass. I'll shoot back.
Yeah, it's funny as hell down there. But it's so weird. All these, and then they got something. I was out in Nevada with a good friend of mine. We had rented an expedition, and I was down there lecturing in not Vegas, and it's right above Vegas, right above where the dam is. Damn, I can't. Laughlin.
Boulder
I was up there, out there in Laughlin. So we decided we're going to go, just riding through the desert like morons that we are, and see what we can find. And he kept telling me about this thing. He said, it's not Bigfoot, Joe. He said, I would say it was more like chupacabra. And he swears, and his wife swears it too, because there's 3 big scrapes down the side of his car where he said the thing tried to grab the car, and when it did, it pushed the car. I said, well, why are you dragging us up here? So I said, you know what? Instantly, Joe starts pulling out guns, loading guns up. Because, yes, if before anybody asks, I do travel with weapons when I travel. And so we were looking, and I didn't see anything. And it was so funny. We got to the top of this peak, really pretty night. I mean, stars every, just absolutely gorgeous place to be. And you hear this thing sound. At first, I thought it was a wolf howl, but it wasn't. And then you see what looks to be something about 8 or 9 foot just walking across the bottom of the hill we're on. And, the researcher in me wanted to go slide down the mountain and get some better pictures. The hunter in me's like, just take a shot, just take a shot, just take a shot. 44, I could probably kill him from that far away. And I was like, man, maybe it's a person there. You better not. And then you just see it stop and it leans its head back and gives off this weird ass howl. And I hear Michael starting screaming at me, look, there's two more, there's two more, there's two more. And I look, and he's got all this on film, by the way. He's actually posted this a couple times. I looked down to the right, and it looked like two about slightly shorter than he was. And you could kind of tell because of the way their shadows were casted from the moonlight. It was a strange, the whole thing. So then he started telling me maybe it's a family, this, that. I had no idea what the hell it was. But people do go missing in that area quite frequently. And, a lot of people just think it's, the mob or somebody taking you out to the desert, killing you and burying you, but it could be one of these things. But I know from the Canadian U.S. line right there where Vancouver is and Seattle is, they said there's quite a few of them up in there. And the Indians all through Nevada swear that they come in and take people out of the village from time to time. Somebody took some out of my village. The next day I'd have a Gatling gun on a pad. So I'd be taking anything out of my village
Waste
again.
your money on a Gatling gun.
Oh hell yeah, maybe a 20 millimeter
That's
can
all you
in
need
there.
in your life as your advisor, man. I'd be like,
20 millimeter can, and that thing spin around, kill everything for miles.
Ammo is so expensive. So 10 people who incredibly, strangely disappeared, man. What do you think of that?
Amelia Pisano.
Well, group disappearances is not uncommon throughout history.
Owen Parfitt. Owen Parfitt? Lived in an English town of Shepton Mallet and mysteriously disappeared sometime in the 1760s. Parfitt was unable to walk. Parfitt was unable to walk on his own due to a disease, so he lived with his sister, who took care of him and helped him move around the house. One day, Parfitt was sitting outside by the front door, where he usually sat, and his sister came over to move him. In the chair, she found only the coat that her brother had covered himself. He'd gone.
Mm-hmm.
You think a little chicanery? You think his sister realized it was just a story, and she smacked him on the head with a shovel and buried him under the porch?
You think she's Lizzie Borden?
Yeah, that could be possible.
You get tired of taking care of people.
Instead of an axe.
Axe is way grisly. A shovel,
Well, I think it was very easy to go missing in the 1700s.
Think New York City. Think you got nice clothes on, and an axe is just going to make a mess of you and everything else, man. A shovel is real simple. Just bumping, and you don't have to have an excuse to have a shovel as you're walking around.
I always walk around with a shovel.
Yeah, I know. What you walking around with as I pull Martha out? What are you walking around with that shovel for, boy?
How about Brian Schaefer? He was a medical student at Ohio State University who disappeared in April of 2006. Schaefer met up with several friends at one bar night, and he was last seen sometime around 2 a.m. Witnesses saw him talking to two women at the bar. Sometime after that, Schaefer's friends lost track of him. They realized that he was no longer in the bar, so they left thinking their friend had just gone home, but Brian never made it home. In fact, he vanished, never to be seen again. I think this is just just instances of people who just got their asses handed to them, and it's not necessarily paranormal. It's more a human issue.
We want to get into paranormal. What about the people up in Nunavut, Canada? What was it, Lake and Jacuni, something like that, where 300 people went missing, and when a fur trapper, this is going back, this is 1930, and a fur trapper goes in there it was a habitual stop that he always made. There was nobody there. Some of the graves, the local graves, had been opened up, and nothing other than that disturbed. All the animals were, the dogs were literally frozen in place. And we're only talking a few hours that this had happened to. The whole pack of sled dogs nearby were dead from starvation. Yet there was still people cooking, you could still see smoke coming out of the smokestacks that they had in their huts. The dogs were buried 12 feet in 12 feet of snow. There's just no explanation for it. Yet neighboring villages had seen lights in the sky.
I have a good recipe for dogs.
That's a real. Wow.
But there was food really close by. Why didn't they eat it?
Different dimension.
Maybe.
Maybe something we were talking about the other day, a little time slip or a long
But
time
that,
slip.
yeah, like that's 300
Yeah.
people,
That's
and
a
the
lot of
dogs looked like
people to
they had
close.
been starved for like 2 weeks. Yet there was still like everything was still going on. There was people in the village. Yet you went in there. He reported it because there was nobody there. There was plenty of food. Somebody had been in the village. So if they were gone, who was in the village?
That's crazy.
Like it is. It's just a lot of weirdness. But that's like a mysterious disappearance.
When I was looking into all of this stuff with the missing and portals, missing persons and everything, what I couldn't believe was that a lot of the people who go missing and maybe come back years later or not are actual physicists. For adult missing people, they were the highest percentage of missing. So it makes you wonder, what exactly did they find that caused it to happen? And a lot of them are very athletic. They're on their own. There's only some instances where somebody goes missing out of a group and they're the only one that's missing. And then there's no eyewitness account. And I always think, well, can you bring that to UFO? Can you bring that to ET? And why couldn't they cloak everything and then remove this person and then wipe your memory? That's a possibility when there's one person missing.
Or did they step into an alternate reality? Did they step into, like Joe said, a parallel dimension, and they're just gone, a slip in time?
There was David Paulides. I love him. He does the Missing 411 documentaries, but he had talked about a story which really shocked me, and I think it surprised him as well, because this story came from a priest who was on a hike and happened to be on a giant chunk of granite, and he felt like he was sucked in, and he was walking for days and then spit back out. I think granite, we know that quartz and stone and crystals have a lot to do with energy fields and how frequencies. Yeah. And then there's that infrasound where there's zero almost to none that could drive them insane. I love the I had to write this one down, the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Oh, Dyatlov.
Russia. Dyatlov, thank you. In Russia.
The Dyatlov Pass. Yeah, but that there were 2 incidents with that. There was an incident back, I think it was in 2019 or 2020, where another group of people completely disappeared. That's 2 in the same location.
Yes,
and they had not been found.
This one in 1959, they did find them. But the weird thing about this was they were trying to get out of their tents from the inside. But yeah, there's so many. It's crazy. It's kind of scary. I came to a conclusion: don't go camping, don't go hiking. That's all I'm saying. Sorry.
Well, the second group wanted to retrace the steps of the first group, and they were warned not to go up that far. They did, and they went completely missing. So it makes you wonder, were they going to find something up there? Is there a portal? Is there something?
And they're always with those ones. I've also noticed that they've always witnesses of lights in the skies, but they want to hide it. So it comes out years and years later. What's your opinion, Joe, with those ones?
I have no idea. That's why I don't mess with messing people.
Anybody, Michael?
That's why I don't. I hire people unless I somebody personally, then I can sniff them out.
The problem is when you get into these accounts, unless it happened right in front of someone's face, man, these people. I've heard stories like when I was younger about hikers up in Vermont. They walked into some kind of like doorway and they were gone, and then it's hard really to find any accounts of that. So probably more like bar stories or something, and the tales people tell each other. But the one that stands out to me was that skier. The one who, let me see, I got the guy here. And he's from Canada. Canadian man who went missing while skiing in the Adirondacks.
Canadians are low in cholesterol.
But he was found 4 days later in California. And he says it all started with a trip to his car for a cell phone. But he has no recollection of how he got to California. And, basically his friend said he was skiing down the mountain. That's the last time they saw him.
Doesn't that sound like a time slip, though?
He's a captain. He's a firefighter. He's a captain in Toronto. And he's refusing to talk to anybody about it.
Yeah,
I read
because
about that one as well.
they
Yeah.
found him in Sacramento with his goggles on and his ski hat,
Ski
and his
jacket.
ski jacket. Yeah. So what gets me though, like this is kind of my area, and that's a few hours from where I am. We were all looking for him. I mean, he could have gone any which way,
Oh wow.
gotten a ride. But when it comes to like hitchhiking, people are very particular who they pick up. Truck drivers will pick you up most of the time, sometimes anyway. But this was all up and down the highways and truck stops looking for this guy. There was no way he was going to catch a ride with someone without them understanding that he was missing. And then he has no understanding of what happened at all. So there was also another incident about Sacramento where somebody claims that they appeared, that they weren't from this time. And that was in the Sacramento, I think the Sacramento Bee or whatever it was a long time ago. Because I was looking for stories that kind of went along with this one when I talked about this guy when it actually happened. But and he's like you said, 50 years old, fire captain, father's got children, and not a prankster, not the kind of guy that would ever pull that off. But so how did he get there? I mean, 4 days is plenty of time to get to California from New York. I mean, if you're going, but
If you're
that's
flying,
he didn't have some kind of psychotic episode. They tested him, and
you'd have to drive 24 hours nonstop to get there in 4 days. I know. For me to leave, if I leave here, if I leave New Orleans and drive to Cali, it's almost 40 hours.
12. You'd have to go 12 hours a day to get
That's
to
crazy.
California from upstate New York, at least.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
that's
God.
so. Like when we went to Utah, we drove 3 days at 12 hours a day, 36
Yeah, good
hours.
48-hour ride.
It's yes, it's because you got to cross Texas, and if you don't have to cross Texas, then you got to cross three other states.
Well, you cross Texas if you drive down to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If you're going from
Texas
New York,
is like, it's funny because I can drive from Florida. I can go through Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and still not take as long as it does drive across Texas. It's ridiculous.
there are a couple roads that just go coast to coast. You got Route 80, you got Route 70.
And that's why people disappear in Texas.
Very, very heavy truck routes,
Yes. Well, quick question for you: who is the most famous person, or the most talked about person, or both, the most famous and talked about missing person in the world?
Andrew Cuomo.
Andrew Cuomo.
We're not doing politics. He did disappear.
Earhart.
It is Amelia Earhart by far.
Yeah.
She is by far talked about it more than anybody else. And the next one, the second person, is also a woman.
Really?
Yeah,
What
she
job?
is. Yeah, she was. You want to know what her job was? She was a porn star.
Oh,
went
I don't
missing.
know her name. That's terrible that I know what you're talking about.
Bambi Woods is her stage name, but and she
I
went
remember
missing.
that on Unsolved Mysteries.
There've been a couple of them, and because sometimes people just disappear because they want to disappear. I can understand that, and sometimes it's foul play, and then sometimes there seems to be other than foul play. Something, I hate to use the word paranormal because, see, I don't consider that stuff paranormal. To me, it seems more normal than paranormal. It's just things that work in the universe that we simply don't understand. But
Abducted, man. The guy was. I mean,
he could have been abducted.
maybe the guy got into a.
He could have walked in. He could have crossed a portal. He could have fell in the lake and drowned like that guy, poor idiot that was hiking. Everybody thought something got him. He slipped off the hill, fell down, and drowned. And he had just enough weight on him that he stayed below the water, so that nobody seen him. A fisherman caught him like 2 months later. There was no foul play or nothing. They once they realized what it was, they went and found the area. He slipped. He just lost his footing. And there was all kind of Bigfoot stories. Bigfoot got him. Bigfoot ate him. Unfortunately, the guy, and that's why, again, people, you don't go by yourself when you go in the woods. You should never go anywhere by yourself. Well, there's a few places, but
Well, let's talk about how about Flight 370, Malaysia Airlines.
that's another weird one. It just
That's
and
a
there-
crazy one.
what, so
Portal,
I-
foul play.
I have my own suspicions on that.
Well, do it. Apparently, there were scientists on there with cloaking who had developed cloaking devices. That the conspiracy theory is that one of the Rothschilds owned patents to, and with them all gone, he got the whole patent.
yeah, there was only one
That's
piece
a
of the plane
conspiracy.
ever found.
If you believe it.
That they
What's your thought,
found, but-
Michael? Sorry? Anybody?
Well, no, I was just thinking they found one piece of that plane early on, and then they never found anything else.
You know what? I think it comes down to greed and theft. And I could break it down. I think in terms of dollars, there was over $1 billion worth of lithium on the plane. Number one, number
Okay.
two, the plane was brand new. Each of those motors were 50 million apiece. You know,
Yeah, because they said no remnants were ever found, apparently.
this guy
Wow.
had a whole flight simulator in his home, and he had taken the decks out and destroyed them before this happened. So whatever he was planning, whatever he was doing, he planned it out there. He had over 2,000 flights. He knew the area, and keep in mind, you're talking about an area that's littered with little airports that the military built for the war, you know, in Laos and all that, right? And he knew where all the military radar was. If he was just going to go up, kill himself, you know, and just flood out the plane, he wouldn't have pivoted through all these little points where avoiding military radar and whatever, you know. So I mean, I'm thinking he went up, he banked really hard, killed everybody in the back. They only have 20 minutes worth of oxygen, and then he landed at one of these things and they diced it up and he got his money. I mean, that's if
That would make sense.
his cut could have been 70, 80, $100 million. I mean, that's plenty enough to kill that amount of people, you know. So it feels like a theft to me.
It might be. A lot of people thought that's what it was.
You know
I
that.
know. Yeah.
No, sorry, I was going to say, because I wanted Joe's opinion on this. Like, the military and Perth, Australia, they picked up signals like all over the place.
Yeah.
6 hours later. This route, right before they just went missing, they just happened to move off of radar, veer right, veer left. They knew exactly what they were doing, and then go in the complete opposite direction, drop off in the Indian Ocean, but yet they were picking up signals from this plane.
Yeah, cell
days.
signals too from loved ones were calling and still getting answering machines, things like that. And even though there were roughly 20 pieces of debris found, so many reports refused to report that. They kept saying there were no remnants found. So why not just be more open about it? Why is everybody hiding?
Some of the pieces found, the Navy said this, some of the pieces found didn't look like they had been tore off the plane. They looked like they had been removed from the plane.
Oh, okay. So there's a whole other story. Goes in line with Michael.
It would. They said that it looked like some of these pieces, which, you know, under stress they could have popped the bolts, but he said that there were 7 or 8 pieces that he called suspect. He said there's no doubt they were from the plane, but he also made mention that they were pieces that weren't worth anything, just hull pieces. There wasn't even no ailerons, no flaps, no rudders. None of that was found. Should have found at least a tire because the damn thing would have floated up. But they didn't find any tires. They didn't find any wheel hubs. They didn't find any luggage. Luggage they should have definitely found as a case is broke up. You know, they just didn't find anything that you would normally find that would float. Just weren't found. And never has been found. The pieces that were found, he thought, the captain of the one of the destroyers thought that he said they looked like they had been placed, because several had been found on beaches right on the edge of water.
Right. Like, what about life jackets, for crying out loud?
And then the things that were floating, like they found a cabin door, or a piece of a cabin door, like a half of it actually. And it didn't have any stress marks on it. It was half a door with no stress marks. Really? Well, those doors are this thick. I mean, how the hell did it get broke without any stress marks, unless it had been cut, or if it was hinged or something. So it was very, very fishy. And I agree with what Mike said. I thought from the very beginning, this smelled of, I really thought we were going to hear, like in old days, like we used to hear in the 70s, oh, all right, we got all these people, they're all worth some money, let's get some ransoms, but we didn't. And I have no doubt that they probably were all killed. They might have been killed the way Mike said, they might have been killed later on. The fact that none of the calls went through suggests that they were either unconscious or dead. Because the calls were going. It was just like so you can tell the difference, like when the plane was brought down over Pennsylvania, those calls were actually going through. Those people were actually talking while they were bringing that plane down, they were actually talking. It's one of the things that hurt the government so much. It kind of hurt that story about, they broke into the cabinet, flipped it over, and brought it down. Well, one of the things you hear an explosion while they're talking, F-16 brought them down. They get as mad as they want, but that's what happened there.
Oh, you're way too damn close not to be taken down. Exactly.
They had to take it down. It was no doubt about it. People want to get mad about it, but in the world that we live in, since that plane was headed for D.C., That is protocol. They would have brought it down. They didn't need to lie about it. That plane was under control of the enemy. It had a very small passenger group on it, and it was headed back to D.C. with a full tank of fuel. That was what they should have done. And they
have
should
a
have brought
set up perimeter.
Yeah, well, there was a rumor that they were going to try to bring down the second one that hit the Twin Towers, but they didn't have enough time. They probably had enough time. They just would have just fell in the middle of New York and did more damage.
Back a second on Malaysia. How did it end up? What I remember this because I'll never forget the amount of psychic reads that went out on social media about where these people were, right, Michelle? Where they're on an island. Somebody's keeping them on an island. They're perished, and I couldn't believe the psychic reads. And I'm sorry, when I see stuff like that, you can email me at ameliapizzano@icloud.com. I really don't care. When I see stuff like that, to me, it's like an ambulance chaser. Somebody's family was
somebody
in
needs
that
to do
thing,
a good
okay?
psychic if they want to help.
A good one doesn't post it on Facebook. That's all I'm going to say.
But if you're a real psychic and you want to help the people in Flight Malaysia, there was 12 members of the crew. They couldn't have pulled this off without some of the crew. Look for the crew members. You may find out what happened. Crew members
back into the airport. You have to go all the way down the line, and this is something that took for a long time to put together. But I'll never forget that because of the way they just jumped online for fame, and it really bothered me because, like I said, it's still somebody's family out there that's missing, and it's gone over what, But I won't say that there wasn't times that it didn't cross my mind that they went through some friggin' huge ass portal. Like it did cross my mind because when it just went into nowhere in the Indian Ocean, I'm like, wait a second, we've been hearing stuff from you on and off. How did it just go zero? Right? It makes you paranormal minds, right? I don't know.
Here's a crazy story, right? Crazy as this is as far out there you're gonna get. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Do it.
The mysterious, the mysteries of flight. The curious case of Pan Am Flight 914, right, which is a really old one. Yeah. So Pan Am Flight 914 was a Douglas DC-4 aircraft with 57 passengers and 6 crew, and it took off from New York City Airport headed for Miami. That date was July 2nd, 1955. The flight was scheduled to last a couple of hours, but it never arrived in Miami. Instead, it showed up unannounced and invisible to Caracas radar on March 9th, 1985. Voicing his concerns to the tower, the pilot, after a textbook landing, taxied towards the gate, and ground handlers could see the faces of screaming passengers pressed up against their windows, looking at a fantastic new world. The pilot, for his part, dropped a small calendar out the window before he made a hasty turn back on the runway, where he took off and disappeared as suddenly as he arrived. And then the calendar was the calendar from that 1955, whatever. So and then they're saying, did he drop it by accident? Did he's trying to say something like, help us or whatever? So both governments, both Venezuela and United States, the story goes, were said to have seized the calendar and the tower tapes and have refused to comment on the incident ever since it happened, of course. And the question is, what happened to Flight 914? So, and then, think about that. That's an interesting story right there. A lot of people witnessed this. This is, just last week on Discovery Paranormal, I talked about Antarctica and how what happened to Byrd and how his fleet got destroyed by what he described as silver discs. And he came back with a message from this person called the Master, and all of this was just wiped out. Where I got a lot of the info was Chilean newspapers, because these soldiers who were mangled showed up in Chile. And wow. This is where they went to the hospital. So the government, the newspaper, they wrote all about them. All the newspapers wrote about these accounts of these soldiers of what happened. So
isn't that the whole Dark Fleet Nazi thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't find Nazis, though. They said that there was a Nazi U-boat base, and there was 2 U-boats there, and they both showed up in Argentina, and even they had a hard time negotiating to get off the U-boat with Argentinian authorities. So, there's truth out there. We're just not going to get it from the U.S. government.
Ever. Or any government for that matter, ever. As soon as they speak up, the American government will silence them.
Well,
Joe,
we'll cut them off financially. We'll say y'all are too bad, so sad, people. Thinking about that, there's been on 2 occasions I heard uh, on military bases where they've had aircraft land that were out of date and then take back off and disappear. I know there was supposed to be a World War II bomber that landed on a base in Seattle, coming back from a bombing run, and it wasn't cleared for approach, but they went ahead and let it land because it looked like maybe something from somebody's you know plane show or something, and it taxied, and the guy had the window open asking about fuel, and then I guess when he seen all the jets there, he just took back off again. And then there was another that's supposed to happen on the USS Enterprise, where a prop Corsair came in. It's a World War II Navy plane, all prop. So he came in, landed, talked to everybody. They refueled the plane. He talked with the captain. The captain said the best thing he could do is try to return from where he came, because there was no way they could explain it or let him be part of society.
why do so many missing persons are always in these huge national parks? And it's not just in the United States, it's internationally that this is happening.
There's a document on the ICAR website you should read, and it will explain that to you. Something we learned early on was deep water channels, very large military bases, very large parks, all had something in common. They had a lot of abduction reports,
Right.
It's an easy way for ET to abduct you. So what they can do is they can put a thing into your head. I want you to come to this park, a park you may like, a park you may never have been to. Yosemite's one of them. The one in the Gulf Breeze National is one of them. You'll get, like, just recently, we just had a meeting on this a couple of weeks ago. So currently in Gulf Breeze, in the little part of Gulf Breeze, which is a bunch of hotels, not even hotels, condos and stuff like that, just this little island, which is 11 miles long, only a mile across. In the last 10 years, almost 37 of reported abductions, probably 3 times that, have been taken. It's an unusual amount. Only a few other places that are higher, but it's a crazy amount of people. And it's not small abductions, it's mass abductions. We've had people witness to people just streaming out of the hotels, headed for the ship. Ship landed on the beach, and just people were streaming for it. I know one guy got a picture of it, even managed to get on the internet. And then not only did it disappear, he disappeared, his family disappeared, his money disappeared, his business, anything. So it was like somebody wiped him out of time.
Wow.
Everything about him was gone. The only people who had any information on him was us. And I'm really surprised they didn't try to wipe us, but our database isn't connected to the database, so it makes they'd have to physically come to my house, which means I'm going to shoot their ass. But they can always do like they do mill labs. All they do mill labs is they find your import for your air for your house and just drop a TNT. It's a little thing about this big. You're out in less than 15 minutes. Everything in your house is out.
Unless you're a coon ass.
Even coon ass,
You guys are
unfortunately.
always aware.
They're aware until they passed out snoring. But they do that. Those kind of things happen. And
So here's another weird one that is, they don't have a ton of information because these stories go back a long time, and a lot of times the government scoops up the information and says we're going to keep this because it's just not good to tell people. But this is the mystery of Santiago Flight 513 that disappeared in 1954, only to land in 1989 with skeletons. So,
Oh, really? It landed?
yep. According to the article published by Weekly World News in 1989, which was a tabloid publication, you know what I mean? But it was based on this story. Santiago Airlines Flight 513 took off on September 4th, 1954 from Aachen, West Germany, and was scheduled to arrive in Porto Alegre in Brazil 18 hours later. However, the airplane simply disappeared mid-flight over the Atlantic Ocean, flying over the Bermuda Triangle too, by the way. I mean, that's that whole region, right? I guess, anyway. So at the time of the disappearance, authorities believed that the plane had crashed, and then for several years to follow, multiple search parties were formed, and they looked for the remains, but they found nothing. Time went by, decades passed. Santiago Airlines had already run out of business in 1956, just 2 years after the alleged disappearance of their plane. So 3.5 decades later, on October 12th, 1989, the Porto Alegre airport in Brazil spotted an unauthorized aircraft circling around the airbase. The air traffic controller tried contacting the pilot, but it did not respond. Eventually, the plane came close to the runway and struck a perfect landing. It took a well-maintained. It looked well maintained, the shape of it, and the engines were still up and running. It looked good. And once the airport authorities approached the plane cautiously, they opened the doors from outside. And what did they see? What they said was chilled their bones to the core. They found 92 perfectly preserved skeletons of the people on board, 88 passengers and 4 crew members, safely buckled into their seats. When they opened the cockpit doors, they saw the plane's pilot, Captain Miguel Victor Curry, also in skeletal form, still his hands on the control. So
Oh,
How
come
does that
on.
happen?
How did
How
it
does
land?
And how does a plane stay perfectly maintained? You know,
Oh my
like it's
God.
maintained, it's in good condition. Um, and everybody in the inside looks like they've been in there for hundreds of years or a couple of hundred
Got
years.
to wonder how it didn't run out of fuel.
they're saying that there's no
Right.
evidence and whatever is whatever, but there's limited evidence from the newspapers at the time from that area. You know,
Wow. Wow.
But
I
there's
think
also
that's
a
how
World
they.
War II bomber, a bomber that landed by itself, after the bombing mission had been done and the crew got killed. But the plane was still going and it landed by itself, in England. So, yeah, you have to say, wow, it's pretty incredible.
There are times from these planes, I think the U.S. Navy, when I was in it, had reported over the years almost 75 planes that had gone missing. Now, every now and again, they find one of them. So that 75 was probably down to 50, but the Air Force had done the same. What's weird is there had seemed to be a rash of passenger, not just public passenger, but passenger, types of passenger planes that might be Air Force or Navy or some type of military passenger plane, plus other passenger planes. Like one of my favorite ones is the Janet. There was a Janet plane went missing.
Mm.
Unfortunately, they couldn't put it on news because it was a Janet plane, and you're not supposed to know who was on that plane. So there was 36 people plus the crew of 8. 44 people went missing on a plane that flies back and forth from Area 51 every day.
Hmm.
Yeah, where do you think that plane went? It didn't crash. And if our military couldn't find it, that means somebody we know that we don't like got their hands hold to it. That was like when we stole all them German scientists. Somebody just got a bunch of our Area 51 scientists, or they knew too much and they weren't needed anymore, and they were disposed of, which is always a possibility.
Guess the joke's on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's quite possible that they just disposed of.
Hmm.
It's well within somebody. We were talking about something like this the other day, and it's every now and then a group of people that belong to a particular military group will disappear, and you'll never hear from them again. And it's weird because a lot of times it will coincide with something that just ended or was no longer being used. Put this in perspective: the guys who built the stealth fighters and stealth bombers for us, there were 6 of them that was instrumental in making this. Their plane crashed going from one base to the other base. One of the most maintained aircraft, one of the most reliable planes we fly, crashed. And they tried to blame it on the pilot. Then he found that he was a Top Gun pilot, so they wasn't blaming it on him anymore. They tried to blame it on equipment, but they shared the service record of the plane just before it took off. It was in excellent shape. No one could figure out. The one report came in from a civilian who said, one of the civilian investigators said, I think there was some type of EMP involved because it looks like all the instruments went dead because they were all on zero when it crashed. And they immediately shut him down. I don't think they killed him. I think they just warned him. They maybe gave him a little money or something. He just disappeared. And he was still alive because somebody checked him up, but he would refuse to talk to anybody. And it just got swept under the rug.
It's like the mafia. You just never
They
want to
worship
get involved in that type of stuff, man. Just stay
Well, it's because
away.
if you fall across something accidental, you probably get yourself killed.
Plus, there's also black bag operations. They just black bag people so they can function,
Yeah.
without them. Everybody thinks that they're dead, So,
All
United
right.
States, it's not illegal to fake your own death unless you're like trying to get away from money, debt,
Or if you're
or
in the
court
military.
action. But if you're just Joe Schmo, you can just fake your own death and be like, okay,
I'll come back as Sarah.
come back
You
as Sarah
think-
Schmo.
I'm trying. You think Michelle and I have this signal that I just put my finger up so she knows, so I don't cut her off. But no one else knows that.
Finger going up. I'm
It's
like,
not working.
can't
It's
do a
like
thing
this.
for you.
It's like
It's
school.
like
Gotta put your
Michelle's
hand up.
sitting there laughing. She's like, "Shit."
I know the sign, but nobody else does.
Now,
Okay, pay
now,
attention, boys.
if you really want to go back to the old Southern days, there were
Put that
three.
finger up again.
There were three slave ships that went missing.
She's trying to
think it
say
was-
something.
I think it was 1,100 slaves altogether crammed on 3 slave
Joe's
ships
been abducted.
and went missing. They were being escorted by a military escort, and the whole escort and everything went missing.
We're
There was
just
no
bleeding
hurricanes. There was no storms. There was
We're not
nothing
really
else.
here.
Yeah, y'all aren't. Y'all are a figment of my imagination. I realize that a long time ago.
All I was trying to say was to go with what you were saying is that you're telling us stories, and there's so many of them with
Yeah.
missing planes and stuff, and big groups of people. Those are just the ones we know about.
Right.
There's lots
Imagine
more.
all this stuff we don't know. It has to really,
Especially in
I
other
think it's important
countries.
to dig deeper.
Other
Well,
countries that like China that aren't so apt to share things, or even Russia, right?
Apparently,
No,
they
talk
have
about me
trouble
like that,
sharing
you
something
asshole.
else. But anyways,
I put my finger up, but you couldn't see it. It's a different finger, but
oh my god.
Oh,
we all
yeah,
need the finger.
we all need the finger. Easy for you to say, Michael. Nobody sees your
Well,
finger going
unless
up.
it's somebody that does prostate
That's good,
exams.
though.
You don't see mine under the table either.
No one's
but
gonna see
anyway.
it until my hair grows back in. That's what I'm saying.
Women love bald men, Michael. Just saying.
I'm in a transitional phase between shaved head and hair, so it just doesn't. It's just not right.
I'll crochet
have
you a
to-
cap. Send me your
I can get-
address. I'll crochet
get
you a
a-
beanie.
Yeah,
and
you
send
see,
it
I need
over.
a crochet. Get some with some little ears. You know what I mean? So in hunting
A
season, the
Yoda
coon
hat.
asses will shoot me in the woods.
Oh, I
They'll be
was
like,
thinking
look
more
at that
like
big
a Yoda
bear.
crochet
Boom.
beanie. More like Yoda.
Last thing I heard was chick, chick, boom.
Yeah, they wouldn't even do
No,
that. They would probably use a crossbow.
I'd be
I'm
I'm
eaten,
gonna make you gangster, Michael. I'm
Made
gonna make
it
you
in-
gangster.
made into jerky.
Damn. Sorry.
There
guys.
was one thing that when I was listening to David Paulides, I mean, I've watched that documentary 100 freaking times, but when I was the stuff that sometimes when you don't pick up things the first time and then you watch it and it's that thing that makes you go, with his the ones that have come back from being missing when they found them, like the firefighter that was found in California. He actually felt like he had some sort of a head injury and had an MRI done, and they found nothing. What they all find in common with these kids is that how far they find them from point zero, for one thing, because kids don't travel far, they get tired. And when you're finding them hundreds of miles away from where they went missing, you have to question what the F is really happening here. Also, what's rare, their clothes are not dirty. Their bodies are not cut. There's no scrapes. Rare if there's ever bruising. But what they do have, all the same victims internationally, is a low-grade fever. Joel, this is where you come in. When you have
asked to get
abductions,
out
is
of-
that
you-
something?
When you ask to get out of the program, they give you what you asked for.
And you get a
See,
low-grade
people. So you should be
fever
very
for a
specific on the
child?
way you should be very specific in the way you ask to get out of something. It might not even be
Okay.
aliens. It could be people. I'm confused about something. So 600,000 adults go missing in the United States every year, and about 659,000 of them are found. So it's about 17,000 different. But yet 800,000 children go missing a year. I can't even fathom that figure. That just I'd have to know where that figure came from. So that's 1.4 million people a year going missing in the United States. And it just doesn't something's not adding up here. If we're losing 800,000, we're losing 2,000 kids a day, then we should be coming unglued on somebody's ass. I mean, really. So I'd have to check into these figures. We're going to do a show on this just on this. We're going to do a show. I might even schedule it for Monday because that's just pissing me off. I mean,
The weirder thing is they all go missing, and after that, they all vote Democrat.
That's even scarier. Yeah, that is
very
scarier.
strange.
You know, what's terrible is that the state with the highest amount of missing children is actually Oregon, where they're missing the most They have the most missing children reports.
Yeah, because Bigfoot like tender food. They don't like that old toughy stuff. They see somebody like Michael and be really, I don't want to eat him. He's probably
Nah,
high in
too
cholesterol,
fatty.
too
You don't want me, man.
stringy, got muscle. No, I don't
Tough.
want to eat him, man. Old guy, I'll be
Although
all
I do
tough.
have nice skin because I've avoided the sun for 54
No,
years.
if they want to make cracklings, that's all fine and dandy. But I mean, you know,
all my sun worshipping friends look like lizards. So ha 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 ha.
so
Another thing that I noticed that was in common as well is that the dogs couldn't pick up a scent from these children at all. No scent at all.
So is it dimensional then?
Cadaver dogs can pick up a whiff on a northeasterly wind. You know,
yeah,
like
that's what I mean. So is that dimensional? Like, are they just slipping time slip?
For this, I can tell. So,
I mean, you can't pick up a scent. You're not there technically.
So, because no, it's not how they do it. So you know how they sterilize stuff to get rid of germs these days, right? Through ultraviolet. Well, for a long time, what we would call the MIBs knew about this. So if they take someone, they can just use that to sterilize. The dog will not pick up the scent. Nothing will pick up the scent. There is no scent. There's no nothing. It sterilizes everything. And boy, I hope I don't get reprimanded for that one. But I'm still positive that's still classified. But sometimes, you just got to talk about things. I did. By the way, ladies, I got in trouble because of y'all. I got.
You can't blame us because you can't stop talking.
I got sanctioned. And get this. So Stephen Bissett thought I was going to get sanctioned because I was talking about.
I got a couple of those messages right now.
So Steve thought I was going to get in trouble because I was talking about the speed of the carrier, and I was telling the real speed versus the speed you read about. He said, "You're going to get in trouble." And they didn't give a shit. Matter of fact, I even asked him, but he said, "No, everybody knows how fast they really go." He said, "They go twice as fast as we mentioned." He said, "Everybody knows it." He said, "Chime," but they got mad at me about the other part. So.
How is this our fault?
So he goes, I can't believe you talked about that and mentioned the person involved on a radio show. I said, why? My security clearance dropped. He said, no, you have class 10 security. You're stuck for life. I said, no. I said, I signed a special one for that event. I said, y'all gave me
30 special.
30
special.
I said, they made me sign something special for it. So I said, y'all made me sponsor. And you said when it was over and done, when I could talk about it. And I said, when it stopped, I talked about it. And they said, well, no. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, no. You said, well, no, you can talk. So this is what it come down to. It's officially on my record too now, by the way. So I can talk about it. I just can't mention who it was that we said might have been getting into it.
So can one of us say it?
See, yeah, because they can't do you anything. As long as I don't say it.
They can say we're lying.
I was like, well, I hadn't gotten sanctioned in a long time. Last time I got sanctioned was over EMP shielding, and that was like 17 years ago.
Let's bring it up again.
And before anybody asks, sanctions just means it goes on my record that I accidentally slipped up and said something that was top secret at the time. But these are stuff that they can say is top secret, but honestly, it's not. Everybody and their mom has been knowing about EMP shielding since I was in the service, so they can just pee as they want. As far as this other thing. Yeah, but I don't see why it's a big deal because he had dementia. So what does it care? Oh, did I say that out loud? Damn. No, that president. I'm talking about Biden. Yeah, I'm talking about Biden. That was fast thinking.
Okay, I'm gonna direct something to Michelle because Michelle knows a lot about portals. When I was studying this, well, I would have asked you tomorrow when we're working anyway. So when I was studying this, they were talking about how some portals can be targeted to a person. And that's how they just go and take them out. And apparently, government's well aware of this. And guess what they're working on?
Wow. Yep. So there you go. Just suck you right out of the air.
Yeah.
Not surprised because look at how many portals can be created, literally by just energy workers can open a portal. We can open a portal. I know, right? See, now I would be in trouble. I didn't sign nothing special.
Now they're going to come recruit your ass and give you a job.
And I don't know what she's talking about.
Next thing you know, Mr. Pinkshirt's going to be showing up at your house.
She just threw me under the freaking bus.
Joel's going to go missing in 2.
No, they like me. They've told me more than one time they like me, so I'm okay. They just I can understand they didn't want me talking about one of the most popular guys in our line of whatever. about what he was doing on the aircraft carrier.
Oh,
Okay,
And the
so
bad
Michelle's
part is, I
portal.
got it backup. One of my partners said he wants to come on and talk about it, and he said, you remember, Joe? They actually said on the news he was going to visit for 3 days. Remember that? I said, we got him. I'm like, yeah, we got him. All right. You guys, I'm pretty sure you got sanctuary too. But anyway, hey,
So
it was fun
portal,
talking
that's a
about.
Sorry, Joe. We're gonna cut you off because you cut Michelle off.
so I was pretty much done because I got through under the bus.
No, I would
Right.
never throw you.
She's
under
got
the
her
bus.
finger up.
Yeah, I have.
I don't know what she's talking about.
I love Michelle. I love Michelle. No, I thought you'd be the best person to explain that, because it's crazy that we're actually hearing this now. We've always
Government
thought
knows how to
it,
do all kinds of things.
right?
If the average, person or gifted individuals can start opening these things up, ET opens them, interdimensional beings can open them. It's just energy. You're just splitting energy is all you're doing. But I'm sure they do it on a much bigger scale. I think also there are natural vortices and vortexes all over the dang planet. You have power spots all over the darn planet. You have places like ancient temples, the pagans and the Celts and ancient cultures would build their monuments or, monoliths all over spots like this. The church went in, took over, put their own temples over top, churches over top of these places. I'll make reference to the show Outlander just because so many people love it.
You perverts.
So, but hey, example though is that Claire goes in there and she's on the Isle of Skye, which there are known places there, and bam, interdimensional. She's gone. She's gone. Same place that she was vacationing in, but only now back in time. So she slept.
Ooh.
There are places like that everywhere.
The big question is, interdimensional, is there food available?
Well, let's hope so.
I wouldn't want to blast in some universe and there's like no food or drink. That wouldn't last long.
I'm not going.
No, that would suck. That would suck.
I need a cannoli, something.
People wake up. We covered this on the Gray Zone just this past Saturday. Where one woman woke up in her bed, different sheets, different shirt. She's in a total other life. She's like, "Where's everybody I know? This isn't my place."
But don't you think
there's no trace of anyone that she knows in her life?
That's more like spiritual. That's more like
time slip. It was down as a time slip. This woman talks about it, and she's looking for people who have experienced the same thing. She's hired a private detective to try to find her partner of 7 years who had a son. She can't locate his apartment, yet she seems to be in the same area. She can't locate his son. There's no trace of this man. He just doesn't exist.
So what about those cities like over China every once in a while? You see these huge cities floating above another city, which looks nothing like the city below it. Scientists try to come up with any kind of explanation.
Parallel dimension or universe?
Yeah, I mean they're saying it's just a reflection, or it's just some BS thing. It's not, because well, number one, people have never seen it before. It's like a one-time thing, and then we also know that China's working on energy weapons. Big time, right?
They all are. They're
not interested in safety either. So. There's something to that. And but I'll say, when I was getting into Taoism, there was this place called the Island of the Immortals that would appear every once in a while.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
This is where the ancient, the ancient masters will say live, and people learn their ways by observing the ancient masters, because you want it to be like them. So I mean, that's what I'm kind of thinking that it is, but it definitely looks real to me.
There have been some of those that have popped up in other locations also. They believe that's actually what Atlantis was.
A lot of people tell me, people who are in the know, like Joe, Atlantis was actually a spaceship. It was a ship.
That's another theory.
and they built islands around it, and they kind of, when they were done, they were done. There was a time they had to go. But I like the story about the master who lives in the middle of the earth with his admiral bird. He wasn't. I mean, this guy got the Congressional Medal of Honor, and he was the first person to fly over the South Pole and the North Pole with a female too. By the way, they leave that out all the time. But I mean, these people were explorers and pioneers. He had a message for DC. They swore him to shut up, secrecy, all that. You're a soldier, and he said, that's my duty is not to say anything. But he went down there with 4,700 troops. Most of them were killed. Ships destroyed, torpedo boats destroyed, all of that by these silver discs. So that's why I did a show about Atlantis. Atlantis, the Antarctic, because it was so fascinating. But it sounds plausible, doesn't it?
I think so. Yes.
And all those sites, I saw your finger. All those sites that you mentioned, like Stonehenge and all that. Yeah. All of these are interconnected inside of this Earth. Like they have a way out to all these, like Egypt and all that. So really fascinating. But go ahead with your finger. I like your finger. I love your finger.
Thank you, Michael. I like you, Michael.
Stop it then. Watch it.
I'm gonna end up like knocking off.
That's an Italian finger, man.
It's a loaded finger too.
It's a loaded one. Actually, they on Outlander. Before I go into what I have a question for Joe on Outlander, they actually do come in and out of different ruins.
They do
as they go along. So
I've never seen it.
They do.
In the studies, I need Jojo, the G-Man, for this one.
Joe's just bitter because Linda watches it.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
You watch all you want. It's just the comments I got to hear.
Oh, Sam Houston. Good Lord Almighty. Anyways, so when I was looking into missing persons and particularly missing adults, I learned this from one of the cases because apparently when you do an autopsy in the U.S., if you want an extensive one done to go even further, you have to pay for it. So a lot of people don't often have them because of the cost. Well, one family did, and they noticed a huge amount of GHB, which is like a date rape drug, in their son's body. Now they're finding with more and more autopsies that these people are being given GHB and tossed into the water. Now imagine that, tossed into the water. You can't move, but you're aware of everything that's going on. Eventually they die, they find their bodies. Now, this doesn't sound ET to me. This sounds government to me.
Sounds more
there
like,
we go.
Sounds like more like people like me. Government has a much easier way of doing it than that.
Sounds like religious.
I don't know. I don't know.
Old-time religion.
These people are it's like they're elite in their fields of their professions. We're not talking about just
sounds like voodoo.
Like me, like an everyday Joe.
Like an everyday Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, you're every day.
A Joe.
Not as much as I used to be, but
an everyday Joe Lee.
It actually sounds like voodoo.
Really? Yes, because voodoo does do that, don't they? Isn't it? They call it the zombie drug, something along those lines.
They've done it for a long time too. The government would do it a little bit. Yeah, they drop them in water.
Anywhere you want.
Yeah, it's mostly
figure it's a
young
fitting
men.
for you. Yeah, you've done something that offended somebody.
Wow.
So they want you to be alive when you die. That's why they also like to bury them alive. They'll make them the zombies and then have them buried alive, and you'll wake up fully motion buried, 6 feet under. Ain't nothing you can do about it. You scratch your coffin.
Oh my God. See, I knew you'd know the answer to that, but I was completely wrong with what I thought. I was just like, what do you mean?
Actually, the government has a couple of ways they can. There's a pill they can give you that gives you. It'll either block an artery and give you an aneurysm or give you a heart attack. But there's another one, the needle that gives you that perfectly gives you a heart attack. And there's no way of knowing.
No.
They can give you a shot just about anywhere, so it doesn't. You're not going to find a needle mark and you're going to have a heart attack and you're going to die. But a lot of times the government does it more fun. Oh, look at this 18-wheel. What? Oh, I didn't mean to run over and kill you. Sorry about that.
Because it's so much fun being paralyzed underwater.
No. They just sometimes they like to do things with more bold actions. And they have been known to drop planes out of skies.
Because there are agencies that are unaccountable because they're these black op agencies. They don't really report to anybody, man. They kind of are their own little thing.
And how much of that these, I mean, okay, how many disappearances? You know how government's always messing around with new technologies and they've sort of got to use somebody as guinea pigs, right? How many people go missing
See?
because of that? You know, there's so many different theories out there. Oh, you know, there's a base on the moon, and you know they kidnap people to bring them up there, so they disappear here completely. That's just one
Mhm.
example of, you know,
Well,
some of the theories that are out there, but they're always experimenting things. Look at Philadelphia experiment as an example. If that
Oh my
happened,
gosh.
it's like no, but you know, like they have programs where they send people back in time. They've been doing this for a lot of years. All of a sudden, that person just doesn't come back. Or no, we can mess, you know, we can mess with people. Let's do this. How many really are guinea pigs?
Well, and the military tells you in your contract you sign with them that you can be a guinea pig. They don't even have to tell you, and
That's
there's no
crazy.
recourse. No, and there's no
But if you're
recourse. You
not,
can't sue them.
there's everyday people not in the military who are just
Mhm.
being
But
guinea
they may be
pigs.
under
Taken
contract just
from
like the
small
rest of us.
towns. You hear that a lot. Taken from small towns and just
Well,
go
people
missing. And
see that's the thing. People who are doing things from the government can live anywhere, especially these days with the internet. And when they want to take you out, they just take you out. You'd be anywhere on the planet for that matter. I mean, what was it? 4.4 million people go missing every year in the world. 606 a day,
do you think
Wow.
they're
every
using
day.
portals to transport these people to see
I
how
think
they
a
work?
lot of them are
And,
just ending up in bad places. I would
oh,
imagine. I would imagine 3 million of that 4 million were just killed by somebody.
oh
Probably
no.
another 500,000 were people who just
truck
decided to
drivers.
disappear. You know,
Just saying.
go off. A lot of truck drivers kill people every year. That's the bad part
Yeah,
about it.
they
Mhm.
do. They
Yeah,
do.
And I
go
fell
around.
asleep. And really, if that's a defense, I've been driving too much. I fell asleep. They're not even going to lose their career over it. They'll get reprimanded
No.
and get sued, and their insurance will pay it. And then 2 years later, they're back on the road again. So
I mean, like serial killers too, man. I mean, they're out there.
I mean, there are
Serial
those too.
killers are out there, but that's a whole other show because serial killers like trophies. They like recognition at one point. They interact with law enforcement, or they find a favorite detective, or there's always something behind it, and they always come forward. Serial
Sometimes they just
killers.
like cereal, like Cheerio. You know,
Oh my god.
Lucky
Anything
Charms.
anything Carnation makes. But
I'd be that kind of
yeah,
serial killer. I'd like throw some different cereal on them. Usually, you know,
that's a
sugar pops. You
cartoon.
know,
That's a cartoon.
Tony the Tiger. Rawr.
Yeah,
Oh my
I might have
god.
to set up a show for missing kids, man.
If
There's
you
too
get
many
off people, there
suckers
should be
going
some
missing.
comedy behind it.
Well, I could talk for hours about missing kids.
Dr.
Well,
Jekyll, Mr.
so
Hyde.
well, when I looked up the U.S. originally, when you look at the first couple of sites, it says 800,000, but I went to the FBI site and they said no, it's more like 400,000.
And that's not
And
even those are reported. What about illegal aliens?
Yeah.
Those kids, I mean, not reported. You know,
If
well,
you
No,
those
go
kids are being
into
sold into slavery somewhere. That's what's happened to
yeah,
those kids.
child
well,
not
trafficking.
just look at all the ones in the residential schools that went missing. You didn't hear about. Can we want to talk about that? There's a whole other show too.
We got like
It's
10 of the shows.
You know, I
well, no,
know
that's what I'm saying. It's
we're
just
I
good
got
for
my.
a
all this
while.
I'll
stuff.
keep my finger up.
Oh, if you listen, Laura Lee, happy birthday to you.
Who?
It's Laura Lee's
Oh,
birthday.
Gucci.
She gonna whoop your
I'm
ass. You
sorry.
gotta watch it.
she
Happy
can't.
birthday!
She can't come
Yes.
here into America.
I'll get her a passport just to watch that. I'll
I
get her
could
a
go up
passport.
there, but she can't come here.
she
So
could
Speaking
fly
of that,
in.
people, if
I
y'all
don't
need
even
Fly
think
passports,
you could
in. She
get
can't
home.
drive. She can fly in. She can't drive across.
if I go up there, Amelia's gonna hear like Italian music outside her window. I'm gonna, I'm gonna be singing
Oh
it
my god.
Simone.
That's how
People
my
be like,
dad proposed to my mom.
people are like, who the hell is that?
Who's caterwauling out on the front lawn?
I live in the country. The cows will be mooing.
There you go.
Oh
I
my
sing to
god.
cows when I take my photographs of like animals out in the wild. People always ask like, well, how are they looking right at you? I was like, I sing to them, and
Oh
then
yeah.
they look at me, they start walking over. I had a heron that almost got into my car. I think that she would have got in my car if I opened that door. And she kind of was like just looking at me and getting closer and closer. Just beautiful, huge heron. Cool,
Cows
man.
are like giant puppies. Jeannie wrote on in chat, our bodies produce small amounts of GHB apparently. Yes, they do, but it's elevated and accelerated when you are under stress.
Oh, that's me
So
every day. I
yeah.
probably have a truckload inside of me. We need some GHB for sale.
Yeah, as well
but-
as the blood counts with creating
For the
heart attacks. So you know
for
if
the
it's
spigot.
if it's. I'm gonna stick my finger up Michael's nose on
I
screen.
see your pencil. Your pencil's up there first.
All right, what time is that? We still got a couple of minutes.
Pencil first, then finger. I like that.
Oh my
I
god!
thought she said our booties did. I was like, what? Don't be being dirty on the radio.
Yeah, no dirt.
This is clean family radio, people.
Yeah,
Mhm,
right.
That's why Joe
What he
repeated it.
said.
Family
Sorry,
radio
sorry.
for the Manson
Family
What
family.
he
radio,
said.
people. Family radio. But no, really, I mean, come on. 100,000 kids go missing. Y'all got a population of 39 million. How can 100,000 kids go missing? That's crazy.
What about the world? What about the world? I mean,
The world
you don't
was
even know.
4.4 million.
You
Yeah,
don't
I
even
just looked
know
it up.
because some places just don't report it, man. You're not going to get those numbers at all.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, 4.4 million is
Oh, we
enough.
could take this show in directions that would blow
I mean,
your
there's
freaking mind.
4.4 million is enough. I mean, we don't need more kids in that disappearing.
Oh,
That's just ridiculous. I
You
mean,
know where
there's
you
so
find
much,
the most
so
accurate.
much.
Yeah, where you find the most accurate numbers for children who've gone missing from home would be on Facebook pages. To be honest with you, the organizations that go out there and do it for nothing. That's where you're going to find them. International missing children will have it, but sometimes they don't update when they found someone. I found that very, very frustrating when I was working
they
it.
don't have to be. They don't have to be that close with 4.4 million. I mean, it's just that's outrageous.
Joe,
I
how long
found
have you had
any
that
child
cough?
missing is outrageous.
You show
Since
symptoms.
the beginning of the show, well, about 5 minutes before Michael,
You all
that's
right?
when he started
Oh.
coughing.
Yes, it's not why I'm coughing now. Though.
Hang out
For
with
some
that
reason, coffee
Snoop
every now and
Doggy
then does
Dog
return.
kind of do.
What's that, Martha? Who? What? No, you can't shoot Michael. He's in
I got 2 fingers up now.
We're going to have all this lingo going on this channel.
Yeah,
And people are going to be going, what are they
these
talking
crazy
about?
people talking about? Look, people, if y'all know somebody's going missing, you need to write into and tell us about it. If you've got a missing child, let them go because I'm looking for your ass now. It's on like a big dog. Martha, what's that, Martha? Yeah, I agree with you. Martha says she got something just for you people special. And if you don't know who Martha is, I will gladly introduce it to y'all.
Oh, no, you won't. This is a family show.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you've got a missing child, Martha wants to meet you.
These shows usually end with Joe threatening to kill people for the last 25 minutes.
I know. Like, is this a
I'm kind
family
of gotten
show?
used to it by
No, I
now.
would not kill anybody. I would never
I've
kill
gotten
anybody.
used to it.
I have this thing that, why kill them? That's not enough torture. That's letting them off easy.
That's what I'm saying.
I
Make
don't
them live.
believe in
Make them live.
death
and
penalty
suffer.
with them at all. I believe
Make
in
them
torture, and I believe that the family should go in whenever they please and torture them for as long as they wish and for as long as they want to. And I'd waterboard that sucker, but that's another story.
Just make them get married and live in a splanch outside of Syracuse, man. That's pretty much the best torture you can ever do. I think that I know people up there that are living pain. I'm like, but you're free. No, I'm not.
No. It's one of the most difficult things to go through. I mean, for any parent, and
Marriage.
I've had to witness. No, I'm talking about a missing child. I mean,
Oh.
we have a family member who went missing, and he was abducted by a child molester who had just moved in not far away, and he was tortured and then murdered.
Yeah, they often go
for
in
days.
jail, out of jail, in jail, out of jail, and then there
But
they are.
no, the minute he went in jail, he was killed. It doesn't give any, not that you can get closure from something like that happening to your own child.
At least he's
But
gone.
it's just not right.
Jeffrey Dahmer, when he went in, I mean, he was mopping the floors. They went in there and they beat him. Well, it was one of the guys that was a cousin of one of the people that he ate. I mean, this guy ate. That's beyond killing someone. You
That's
kill
a
them and
different
ate.
show.
When you do that, all that does is give any of his relatives a lot of money. Because the jail knows they're not supposed to leave them in general population. So it's all it does is make
I don't
somebody
think they
other
care.
than the
I
family
think
rich.
the
I know,
people-
but it makes
guards-
other than the family rich.
Those guards don't
You
like
should
those
stop.
guys.
You should stop mentioning their names and mention the victim. That's where it should be turned.
Look at Epstein hanging himself from 4 feet in the air. There's just things that are mysterious. That's all. It's
Like I
Yeah,
it was
mysterious.
paranormal.
Yeah.
So
Don't-
before
don't
I know
give
we
them
only got
the
about
time.
12 minutes left. So what cryptid is the number one at making people disappear?
Voldemort.
They say Bigfoot, if you believe it. I
Really?
don't know that I do.
Really?
Well,
Yeah,
that
actually,
one,
Bigfoot
that one
one.
shows up a lot.
I thought it was gonna be like
Oh,
Mothman or something, but Mothman was like fifth or sixth,
Mothman was a
or Hat
prophet,
Man,
though.
something like that. What's the one
I
that
don't know.
what's his,
Slender
Skinwalkers.
Man.
yeah, what's
Skinwalkers
what,
have
yeah,
it.
what
Slenderman
is
is
that
a
the one
myth.
that
Is it the
Colin
Hat
Hayes
Man or
talked about?
Slender Man?
I don't know one of them. That's it. They were low on the list. I was surprised though about
Skinwalker, man.
Bigfoot
Skinwalkers.
apparently is like what, number 1 or 2?
Really?
People
yeah,
people think
maybe
people
Bigfoot.
think it is. It's crazy.
You
Yeah,
know
but
what? Bigfoot might capture
who
and
has
give you a
seen a
shot and
Bigfoot
turn into a
carry off
Bigfoot.
a human running? "Arr."
Maybe they're like family members said, "Oh, I'm going off to get a sighting of Bigfoot," and they didn't come back,
Maybe
and then they're like, "Oh, Bigfoot took them."
maybe
Well,
it
that
was a
might be how they
date that
procreate,
went wrong.
by
The
turning into a
missing
Bigfoot.
411, you'll see Bigfoot attached to a lot of those cases. Doesn't mean it's a thing. It just
No,
means that this is the theory that they go
the
I
with.
think
hunted.
aliens is number
Going
one.
with the
Come on, man.
hunted.
I
Alien
agree with
abduction.
Michael.
And
But is
Yeah.
Bigfoot an alien? Is he interdimensional? Is he, like it's just where it gets a little bit different.
I would like him to be a little more developed if I thought he was.
Mm.
Like a little higher, maybe take a shower type of developed,
Well, you don't know. You may take a shower every day. You know how life is aboard the ship.
That's why
You
those
gotta-
skunk eggs stink, man.
Yeah, I
They're
think
out there.
you know what a good friend of mine said. He
They're
said, "I bet
hairy.
you they're aliens. They just wear those kind of outfits so everybody will stay away from them." I said, "Maybe." I said, "But you know them rednecks and Kuyals down there be shooting them no matter what they
Running
see."
around the woods. They must be
Mm.
psychopaths.
But
Give me
the thing that
I
bothers
need
me
some
about all of
entertainment.
this is the Seattle woods, I should say, the Washington State woods, where they've seen a lot, and the down here in the Sabine Valley, where they've seen a lot. There are tons of hunters out there. I mean, tons.
Mhm.
So no one to really kill one kind of bothers me. Yeah, we see pictures from time to time, but I'm always skeptical about pictures. I want to see Bigfoot. Bring him
But
in.
there are so many cameras now and so many
There are a
hikers and
lot of them.
so many people just
Well,
out
there ain't no
there.
hikers back
There's
there.
drones.
But
There's
there are more surfacing, Michael, because of that.
yeah, but I want to see real. I don't want to see somebody in a suit running around the woods. I could do that myself. I do that myself.
I'll pay you.
I think that's one of the problems, though, because we're so used to seeing something that's CGI'd, we don't recognize it when it's real.
Right.
We just automatically dismiss it in our mind. We're just like, no,
I
it's
really don't
impossible.
think that they could have the capacity of a community to maintain their own species. It takes a lot. Especially, I mean, you don't know the birth rate and whatever, but or there's another conclusion not far from where I am right now. There's this place called Spanish Hill, which is, I mean, a couple miles literally. And so they were putting the highway in and they found all these tall skeletons, and then
Yeah,
some,
giants.
14 feet tall and whatever. So it's a hill like that kind of overlooks the
Yeah.
Susquehanna River, so some people say, well, Native American, but they date it back even further. Then they dug up the bones. They called the chief archaeologist from Pennsylvania. He was out there on the western side of the state, Pittsburgh, right? He comes, he validates the bones. He said, "Yep, they're bones," and then they shipped him off to the University of Philadelphia, where they disappeared years later.
Oh yeah, you
So,
never see them again.
and
Smithsonian did the same thing.
but the stories, like the local historian, she kind of mocks it. On one hand, she talks about it like it's real. On the other hand, she laughs like, "Oh yeah, it's been debunked." I'm like, but who would have the resources in the late 1800s to put together these skeletons and put them in the ground? These guys
There's
showed
no way.
pictures of them taking them out of the
Yeah,
hillside.
there's no way. There's no
So-
And how
so-
precisely they're
Most-
done,
And why would the
It's true.
archaeologist put his reputation on the line saying the bones are real?
Exactly. And most
Exactly.
indigenous tell people we did not build those mounds.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Right.
us.
So
right
if you
there.
go back
Yeah.
800 or 1,000 years or somewhere around there in upstate New
Mhm.
York, it's like it's southern tier of New York meets Pennsylvania. That whole
Mhm.
region. There are tales of these tall beings, and they could live hundreds of years too. So
Mhm.
there's also that. So
I wonder
maybe
if they took people, Michael. I had my pencil up.
I saw your little pencil.
I wonder if they took people. Do you think they ever took? Were there any stories? You know what I wonder, Michelle? Oh my gosh. The way they open up the tombs and the oh my gosh, the pyramids in
Right.
Egypt and those stories of how there's hauntings. Have you ever heard anything like that with the mounds? That's something we never talked about with our guests.
Yeah,
Just hit me
there's all
now.
kinds. I mean, we've had guests on who've talked about haunted mounds. And see, in some parts, I know I have a friend who studies mounds in New York, and they don't let you touch them. So if you're in certain states, like even Ohio's got a lot of mounds, they do not let you touch them. So I
The
don't
guy
think
that
you can
lives,
open them.
I had my finger.
No, I wonder.
The,
There's
Not
some
my
kind of
finger.
curse.
Well, you know
Like
what?
if there's a curse, like a pyramid curse for going into a tomb, is there some sort of
But maybe it's
curse?
not going in. Maybe you just have to disturb it in any way.
I mean, the guy that lives
Yeah,
up on
because
that
that's
hill,
pretty deep.
you don't want to go up there because he's like a crazy redneck. He grows Christmas trees, but he'll definitely come out with a
Aw.
shotgun if he sees a car up on the road. Probably because a lot of people go there. It's very famous.
Yeah.
You know,
I can't
So,
blame him. He's protecting it.
And
Yeah.
himself. And himself
Oh,
from the
so,
psychos, right? The weirdos.
Oh, yeah.
Like us.
But there's over 200 of those dig sites around the world where they found these giant skeletons. So,
Yeah,
Okay.
the U.S. alone has a lot
There's
of them
tons.
also.
Yeah.
But the giants vary in size. They vary in size anywhere from, 7 feet. And in some parts of the world, they're like 12, 13, 14 feet high.
Right. It's a plush river valley, lots
Yeah.
of food. You got fish, you got all kinds of stuff around. I mean,
Mhm.
no problem there. The weather stinks, but aside from that,
Yeah.
So are you a descendant of giants?
me, I'm 6'5". I got size
No, I'm
15
talking.
shoes.
I know you're a giant. You're a foot taller than me, plus a couple inches. I'm talking about Joe.
Joe is a
Joe's
giant
just
among
quiet.
giants.
No, Joe's getting ready to wrap up because we got to let the Horsefly Chronicles come on and do their
Those
thing.
Satanists.
Sign
Yeah.
us off,
They
boss.
open more.
Thank you.
Satanists.
Sign
Thanks,
us off, boss.
It's already time. Well, we had a few extra minutes because we ran a little late today. But I was just going over numbers across the planet of missing people and missing things,
Aw.
and to see how many women go missing versus how many men. I would have thought it would have been a bigger gap between women and men, but it's not. I was surprised. I guess
Especially when you come to children because of the sex trafficking. There is some places in Asia where it's legal, so they will ship them in containers to there.
yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. We may have to
Yeah.
set up a show on the network to help out people on this, but we'll see something for the future. But Michael, tell everybody where they can find you on Tuesdays
I'm
and
glad
Thursdays.
you asked me, man. On Discovery Paranormal tomorrow night, I'll be talking about the Baltic Sea anomaly, which of course is this thing they found. It looks just like a spacecraft. And the lines on there, it's impossible for nature to create. And then every time they put a drone near it, it shuts off. It loses all electric. And this thing's been sitting down there. And they have new pictures of it, by the way, which I have.
Ooh.
And I'll be talking about
Ooh.
some new information about it. So
Oh, wow.
I like
it
it.
looks just like the Millennium Falcon, man. So, and then of course, Red Pill News every Thursday. Red Pill News blowing up, man. Everybody loves it. So take the red pill
It's
and
been
enjoy
good.
yourself.
That's Dell brought y'all the new listeners.
My finger's
Yeah.
up at Dell.
Hey, be nice to Dell. He brought you new listeners.
I don't think he brought me anything.
So
I think I brought him
you got to
listeners.
deal with them chasing prophecy people on after you on Tuesdays now.
Well, they're
Yeah,
not
ladies and gentlemen, the reason I
Satanists.
brought that up is Delicious Dell is on Thursdays now from 6 to 7, and Chasing Prophecy is on Tuesdays from 8 to 10. So be sure to catch them out there. Don't forget about Michelle and Amelia. They'll be getting tortured Wednesday. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I'll
Lucky
be
us.
wanting to know shoe sizes and all kind of stuff.
Oh, we lost our freaking minds and agreed to let Joe come on and
what I was
interview
on.
us this coming Wednesday
I
night.
just, and listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you got any kind of question you want to know,
Here
gun
we
size,
go.
shoe size, other sizes, just
Yeah,
let
ask
me
us
know.
really stupid, irrelevant questions. That makes sense. Maybe use us some good airtime. The knowledge,
Unless
out
unless
the
I'm
window.
unless I'm getting gifts, you ain't getting no sizes.
Exactly right.
Oh, listen, it is. I get no size.
So there we go. And then
Boxers,
Thursday night,
Shoe size.
boxers, briefs, Speedo, or Command
I may
Me,
have to
man.
switch
We
off.
want it.
Thursday night, Mr. Preston Dennett returns with
Yes,
a new
I
book
should be seeing in a couple
and
of a couple of
really
months.
good experiences. So that'll be good. And you can't forget about Joe and I on the Gray Zone on Saturday.
I should be seeing
So
Preston in about
educational.
10 weeks, I think, right? Yeah, 10 weeks.
Yeah, well,
I
he was
can't
going to
wait.
be on
I
Thursday.
can't wait to see what his skinny butt looks like in a tux.
That's right. You'll be there.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see what it
This
looks
is
like.
good.
And,
This is good. You
there's
have
quite a
to.
few people going to be out there. We're talking about the gala for the Writers of the Futures Awards. I can't wait for that. It'll be a blast. And I have an interview coming up with John pretty soon on science and politics, actually. And maybe that'll
The science of politics there. Why don't you do that?
We might be. And no telling what John has in mind. He's a good interviewer. So he got the girls. He real quick, what we got? Okay, just before we got to go here, he writes to me. He says, "Well, I thought it would have done better with them." I said, "Give it time." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Give it time." I said, "People got to know it's out there first, John." I said, "It wasn't there." I said, "You got to remember, when we don't advertise a show, you have to wait till after we get off of them, and then we advertise them." I said, "That's how that works." I said, "When we don't book them ahead of time, because some shows, ladies and gentlemen, we don't talk about ahead of time, and we just you find it, and then you get to listen. Sometimes after we do a show and we appear on other people's shows, then we'll talk about it so y'all can go back and find it." Yes, I know. It's just how it works sometimes. Sometimes we would rather see the archive audience bigger than the live audience, which, yeah, give or take one or two. Last I checked, I think their archive audience was well over 500,000. So I think it did pretty well. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to get out of here.
Show.
Yeah,
right.
I'm going to get out of here because I got to save my voice for torture now on Wednesday. And yes,
whatever.
You're on before us, so you're gonna have a voice.
Wait, you want to know what color are their
Right?
eyelashes? Wait, what kind of question is that? No, get out of here with that question. You have to ask it a different way. That's all.
Eyelash.
I'm just kidding.
They're magnetic.
Actually,
so this is going to be an unplugged show, is it? Is
No
this what the
telling
kind of show it's going to be?
No, it'll probably be pretty serious when I get right down to it. But,
Sounds like a third star type of show right there.
Actually, it's going to be. We're gonna ask.
You're gonna say X.
What kind of things bother
X
them
star,
in
whatever.
their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and we'll
I don't talk about my 20s because it was good years.
Right? Look, I was doing a show in New York. The guy said, "Can I ask you when you're 20s? You always sound like you're kind of bad." I said, "I'll tell you what I remember." And he's like, "What?" I says a lot. I said, "I think I intentionally forgot."
Look out for that statute of limitations.
There we go.
I heard lots of things.
In the lawful realm.
Yeah.
Well, you have had friends tell me, "Well, you remember this night you did this?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?
I did nothing.
I said, "I'm pleading the 50th."
Exactly.
But anyway, we got to go because
no, I really did nothing. I was married.
I was married too. What did I have to do anything?
No, very young. I'm saying so.
I was very young too, 23 when I got married.
Yeah.
Well, you're still married?
And I'm still married. Can you believe that shit? I know.
No, Amelia. I don't care if you're
married. Hey, I am hurt, man. What the hell you mean? I am damn sexy, man. What are you talking about? Anyway, we gotta go. I am offended now. We're out of here.
Night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.